This video was sponsored by Lion Circuits. The long search for a homegrown PCB manufacturer has ended with this website. Lion Circuits is an Indian-based PCB manufacturer that offers PCB services to fit your every need and more, not to mention assembly and component sourcing. A link to their website is in the description below. Now that I have a nice little tool to measure a lot of things at once, more importantly, lots of currents at once, I got to work gathering data from different current mirror configurations with a 3 milliamp current. First up is the classic 2 transistor current mirror, which shows a 40 microamp offset without degeneration and 15 microamps with 100 ohms of degeneration. Next up, base helper. 45 microamps offset, which goes down to 20 microamps with degeneration, and the Wilson mirror with a 5 microamp offset and 2 microamps with degeneration. And what's with my sudden obsession with current mirrors? It started with yet another all PCB order. Don't you think I've been getting too many DHL packages these days? Forcing some wisdom by saying that discrete components never lie but datasheets might, and buying a ton of them. Adding a better plug to my linear power supply, grounding the case in the most sketchy way possible, flexing components and PCBs, complaining about lab remodeling, soldering a lot of discrete components on said PCBs, having it short the power supply and realizing I was stupid because I'd left the leads on after soldering, which led to the shorts, measuring the sketchy reference voltages, soldering some more components and flexing some more, putting on oversized heat sinks, finally trying the circuit out only for things to go wrong, fixing it using the full plus or minus 50 volt supply and failing badly only because I didn't heed LT Spice's advice about the terrible output impedance of this design.
But for what?
This a much improved revision I can actually be proud of. This is a fully discrete linear power supply. While moving back to discrete components might sound primitive, it's the only way to avoid black boxes and weird behavior not specified in the datasheets. This design is completely different from the last one. It's based around this element, an emitter input diff amp, fed by current sources and connected to the output stage, which is a P-channel MOSFET. The left side of the diff amp is the input. A potentiometer here sets the output voltage, which is just the set current multiplied by the potentiometer resistance. The emitter input diff amp does anything it can to keep the voltage across the emitters the same, which it does, and overall operation is quite similar to the LT3080. I happen to be staring at the LM334 adjustable current source schematic and realize that at its core it's very similar to my supply design. An emitter input diff amp fed by current sources, the only difference being that the emitter ratio is not 1, meaning that there is a delta VB across the emitters, which is placed across the current setting resistor and maintained by the feedback loop, hence making an adjustable current source. The classic and brilliant 8797 op amp has a similar structure at its core, but the inputs are on top and the bottom NPN mirror and the output transistor form a current comparator. The output NPN is turned on when there is a current difference between the two legs, the current imbalance being created by the buffered inputs. Since we are already talking about the current comparator, here's an alternative explanation for how an op amp works. A current comparator buffered by emitter followers driven by a current source. The current is split up between the two legs based on the input voltages. If one of the inputs is fixed, the output voltage changes when the other input crosses the first. The output polarity depends on which input was fixed, thus creating the notion of inverting and non-inverting inputs. With all this new knowledge about current source driven emitter input diff amps, I came up with something equally crazy for the current limiting, with some inspiration from the ZDS1009 IC and the current comparator from designing analog chips. I made a current regulator on some perf board and the first test resulted in magic smoke. Lesson: don't solder when you are sleepy. After fixing 3 soldering mistakes, the thing seemed to regulate but was drifty, and I had a feeling that it didn't have to do with temperature. And on hooking up the scope, I was right: oscillations. But there is an even bigger problem: supply ripple thanks to the lack of input decoupling. After fixing those problems, which makes me wonder why I even bother making circuits without decoupling or compensation in the first place, the thing seems to work just fine, although I suspect that the periodic creaking has nothing to do with the fact that I'm powering this from a switcher. One quirk this design has is that there is a small current flowing even when the set pot is at 0, but that can be fixed by trimming one of the degeneration resistors. Now, would it be possible to get a nice plot of output current and gate voltage with a ramp on the input like this one from LT Spice? With a function generator, yes. You can already see how the current setting voltage has to overcome a VBE to make current flow, thanks to how this circuit is set up. I randomly came up with a solution to that problem, and now the waveforms are much better. The current starts from zero. The zero error still exists and has to be trimmed out, and it's interesting to see how the gate voltage in pink varies nonlinearly with current. A nonlinearity that does not matter thanks to the magic of feedback. After a protracted fabrication, the PCBs for this project are finally here. Line circuits were kind enough to send a classic USB light for free. The PCBs feel nice and solid and come wrapped in plastic. The silk screen quality, the ROHS plating, and the substrate material seem perfectly fine. To make soldering and testing easier, I'm setting up a discount PC byte. After soldering in a few essentials and the reference circuits, the voltages on the thing check out. I'm placing particular emphasis on the compensation capacitor again, but as you will see, this was not enough. Next up are the output current sources and sinks, which draw minimum load current from the outputs to make sure that the output can go down to true 0 volts. I overdid the currents, which will lead to a rather spectacular fireworks show, as you will see later. The first power up didn't go as planned. Something caused the inputs to short out and make the onboard rectifiers heat up, so I decided to go with the oversized external rectifiers. Luckily for me, the circuit worked with both the positive and negative halves spitting out the correct voltage. The dual tracking works too. After connecting the minimum loads, the output voltages settle down even more. Now the next step is to trim the reference current so that the output scale error goes away, but it was not as simple as I thought it would be. Because of the way the voltage setting pot is hooked up, trimming one rail affects the other. The current source and sink transistors were already overheating at this point because they were dropping around 100 volts at 6 milliamps. I decided to add some output capacitance just in case, and I was greeted by oscillations. I had a feeling it was because of the current loads on the output, but I was wrong. Disconnecting them made no difference to the oscillations. To my ultimate shock and horror, the Falstad simulation showed the exact same behavior. I tried to change the current source and sink values, but that just resulted in the most spectacular show of fireworks I've ever seen.
3 days later.
I decided to pull my socks up and clean the affected areas. The current low transistor are, of course, totally fried. The next thing to do is a little touching to see if anything else is getting hotter than it should. This PNP transistor that feeds the non-inverting half of the voltage amplifier feels suspicious. It checked out perfectly fine, of course, but that just points to its colleagues downstream. One of them was a goner and one of them was fine. After replacing all the dead transistors, the output voltage was back and I can start debugging the oscillations again. Learning a lesson from the last power supply, I added some pull-up and pull-down resistors to the gates. But then these mysterious sawtooths appeared, for which I have no explanation. In an effort to find the source of these sawtooths, I probed the gate, which had random sharp negative going pulses, and the voltage on the set pot was not any better. Curiosity thought it had something to do with the already present compensation capacitors, but removing them, well, had rather drastic results. I decided that it would be good to simulate this circuit in LT-Spice and try to measure its frequency response. The easiest way to make a board plot in LT-Spice is to set a stable DC operating point, buffer the output with a voltage controlled voltage source with a gain of 1, add the test AC sweep on the output, label the input and output nodes, and plot the output versus input. Looks like my phase margin is dangerously close to 0, so I'll have to do something to push that phase up. What I ended up doing after 3 days of messing around was keep the original compensation capacitor and adding an RC network between the gate and drain of the output MOSFETs. That pushes the phase margin up to a measly 40 degrees. Back in the real world, after hunting down another blown transistor that prevented the positive rail from doing anything, I was ready to try this idea. And of course, no oscillations. Everything is not fine, however, the set output voltage drifts randomly. By this point, I had decided that this project was more of a novelty than something useful. I wanted to finish this video off with a test of the current limiting, but while doing that I blew something up and didn't record it. But now I was too worn out to be bothered to do anything else, so I'm leaving this project here. Is it worth replicating? I don't know the answer to that question, unfortunately, but I leave a link to a GitHub repo with all the design files and simulation files in the description. Maybe someone smarter than me will fix it in the future. Once again, I would like to thank Lion Circuits for sponsoring me with PCBs made proudly in the Republic of India. A link to their website is in the description below.